Good morning, everybody. We're running a little bit late this morning, so we apologize. Hope everyone's doing well today on a Wednesday, a very cold Wednesday. Let me tell you, the seats here at Pint and Plow are a little bit chilly. We're sitting on the metal chairs, which I was about ready to swap out here earlier. It was 28 degrees when I came in this morning. So there you go. And it is a beautiful day, though. Looking forward to. I mean, today is one of those days where you're gonna look to ask yourself, like, what is happening in our country? But it's 32 degrees right now, so there you go. And I think the markets are already responding negatively to what's going to happen today. This dysfunction we're seeing. The Dow down about a tenth of a point. Nasdaq down. S&P 500 down as well. So. Fun times. Fun times as well. We've got a good show today. Bill Raleigh's here from Schreiner University talking about what relaunching sports in the wake of COVID-19. If you had a chance to follow the news yesterday, got a couple of things are going on. We're chasing the story about what happened at Peterson Middle School, the new Peterson Middle School, where they had a worker was killed in a construction accident on Monday. But of course, the news of the day. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Sherry. Good morning, Brenda. Glad to have you here this morning. Yesterday, though, good morning, Sandy. We had 2 more deaths reported at Peterson Regional Medical Center. Those were on Monday. That is now. And then yesterday, the State Department of State Health Services noted that there was a 6th death at Villaggio of Kerrville, the assisted living center that has had the bulk of deaths in those facilities. There's been no deaths, no real outbreaks except for Villaggio, and they've now had 6 deaths. That goes back to December 29th as well. And I realized yesterday that I made a little bit of a mistake when I was looking at my numbers for the month for the year. So right now, remember, the state will tell you, and the county will tell you, and the city will tell you only 46. Nope. I've got 83 right now. 83 people have died since May 31st. And right now, in the month of December, we still have a few days left to count those numbers, but we're going to probably end up with around 41 or 42 deaths, in there. And yet again, the Kerr County Commissioner's Court did not even acknowledge that these deaths have happened. I don't think they've ever done it. So I don't know what that's about. I mean, when you do your opening prayer, you can't say a moment of hey, we'd like to remember those who have lost their loved ones during COVID-19. You can't say that. You can't take a moment out of your day to say that, to acknowledge the fact that in December alone, that we have now lost. Let me just give you the number for December, because it's stunning. We have now lost 38 people in the month of December. So that is a stunning, situation, and not to acknowledge that is amazing, And so, like, if you put it in perspective, we talked about this all week long. If you look at the number of people who have died from COVID-19 in December alone, it's almost what would normally die in that month already, in normal cases. So when we pull back and we look at what's happening in our area with this virus, it's going to do some real harm. And it has affected every part of our lives, every part of our day, and so it's just I don't really understand the resistance to acknowledging the fact that people are dying from this virus, and it's not the flu, folks. There was a point there that there's estimated 22,000 people died in a year last year from the flu. Last week, 22,000 people in the United States died from it. Yesterday was the deadliest day yet. I mean, we're reporting around 400 deaths a day in Texas. Now, it's not as high as what it was over the summer, where they had one day where like 270 people died, mostly down in the McAllen area. But, now you're faced with a situation where it's just a sustained number of deaths, and it's just so delayed, and you're going to see it pile up and pile up and pile up. And it's just a serious issue, a very serious issue. The Kerrville City Council met last night. I watched the entire thing. I thought it was going to zip along, and then it hit a point where they went into some discussions about stuff, and then it ended up being I thought, oh, this is going to be great. This meeting will be over in an hour. They weren't telling me the truth, and they went for 2 hours. So I can't count the times of my, number of times in my life that I've watched meetings, thought, this will be over quickly. The only good thing about COVID-19 and covering meetings is you can eat dinner while watching the meetings. That's the best part about it. It's almost like dinner theater. I'll have the chicken and I'll have the rice and I'll have soda water. So yeah, it was nice. And then I had dessert too because it took so long. And if you were sitting in those meetings, previously before they were able to actually watch, you weren't forced to go to them. You'd be sitting there sort of fantasizing around 7:00. Man, I need dinner. I need something to eat. But it was a good meeting, though, and it was an interesting meeting because part of it was at the end of it, they said there's a rock crushing plant they're going to build right behind, and I shouldn't laugh, but it's kind of funny. It's, this is one of those things, right? They're going to build a rock crushing plant behind where they're going to put Killdeer Mountain Manufacturing. They're going to crush rock and concrete over there. And so everyone's kind of like, well, what does that do for the air quality in these areas that it's like Killdeer makes sensitive aerospace electronics, right? And then Fox Tank Company, which makes, the tanks for, wastewater or oil field water, produced water containment or, oil fields. They also paint all their stuff on site. So, if you have all that dusty paint in there, it's going to probably wreck the way that thing looks. Although they get wrecked anyway, so maybe they just put them in camouflage. So it's going to be interesting. James Avery's there too. So the city council approved a resolution last night saying, look, we need to kind of hold on, let's study this a little bit more closely. They didn't necessarily oppose it, but what they did was they said we need to take a moment to really dig into this and study it as well. And that's something that I think is going to be really interesting to see what happens, in the next few weeks, is that these kinds of projects, which are in the county, not in the city, it kind of ties the city's hands a little bit because the property rights issues are so significant. But at the same time, though, does that give that company the right to sort of pollute other people's property? And that's another property rights issue. So a very delicate question and something that we'll be exploring here in the next few days. Speaking of exploring and looking at some things that are coming up, Schreiner University basketball is going to be playing their first basketball game on Friday. This is very exciting, and Bill Raleigh's here with us now. And Bill, how are you this morning?
I'm doing well.
I'm gonna push that microphone right.
Okay.
There you go.
There you
Perfect.
go.
You've been up early. You were on the radio this morning. You had a busy day, and a year like no other. It's been. When you saw the slow motion disaster that was March, wipe out baseball, wipe out softball, wipe out track and field, did you think that there would be – what was going through your head at that point?
I had never seen anything like it. So I was probably like most people thinking, okay, this is a blip. We'll get through it,
right,
and we'll be back to normal come the fall. And come the fall, we weren't even close to getting back to normal.
Right.
So, but it's been a learning experience. That's one of the things I think has been very interesting for me in being in college athletics for 30 years was we've never seen anything like it. I'm glad I was at Schreiner where it was really been a collective, everybody on the same page trying to figure this out.
Right.
And, really focus on how can we give our student athletes, our students, as best experience as we possible in an unknown circumstance.
Right. I think that's the thing that's hard to imagine. At the Division III level, you're not necessarily going to get, you can grant them another year of eligibility.
An opportunity to continue playing. So we've been able to, I think the kids see the big picture. They're not getting, their financial aid doesn't change if they play or not. They don't, they don't get extra money if they decide to play, all those things. So they're there for the right reasons. So we were able to manage this pretty well. But the same thing, that the other side of that coin is that, the extra year of eligibility is great.
Right.
But how many kids actually are going to partake in it? And
right.
We had, when baseball stopped, we had a bunch, we probably had 10 or 15 say, I'm definitely coming back. And they graduated, got jobs, did other, moved on. And we probably have a couple who went to graduate school, and that's about it. So,
right.
But people don't realize we have all those kids coming out of high school, and we have high school kids who face the same thing.
Yeah.
And so now they're coming in and having a backlog of students in the pipeline that they're going to have to compete to try to play for.
I tell that story all the time that, my high school athletic career was defined by, the fact that, I had a really strong senior year in my high school career. and it was all keyed up towards advancing to the California State Track and Field meet. And I can't imagine what these kids went through losing that entire year. And like your baseball program, for instance, was having some fun.
Yeah.
They were fun to watch. I mean, they hit the hell out of the ball. So what could have been and what happened didn't happen. So.
Yeah, it's been a line I've used with our coaches all the time. Different doesn't mean bad; it just means different,
right.
and it's been a different experience. And we just try to keep focused on that, saying, hey, this is out of our control.
Right.
There's a big difference when you're dealing with something that decisions are being made that you can impact or could have been made a different way. This has been we're kind of on a like a boat on the ocean, and you're just riding the waves, and some
right.
waves are good and get in the right direction. Some of them are knock you for a loop, but you just keep trying to go forward.
Well, I mean, the only thing about this, I guess, is helpful is that, you had I've seen programs have been impacted by, hurricanes or storms or fires, things like that. Everyone's kind of in the same boat.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to be unique when it comes to, the level of fitness that the program has. Marwan, and help me with Marwan's last name.
El Rockabawi.
El Rockabawi. Don't they call him Coach Rock? Is that
yes.
Okay, that's right. That's what I thought. And Marwan told me that, and he's the men's basketball coach and a great guy, a lawyer, so don't mess with him. But he told me that he was grateful that Schreiner was so responsive when it came to kind of the COVID protocols. And as someone who himself had COVID himself, what do you think that how the university's handled, COVID and dealing with the pandemic?
I think as well as we could.
Yeah.
This is uncharted territory for everybody. Dr. McCormick has really done a great job of putting the people in positions to be successful,
right.
and really, I'm in probably too many meetings that I ever wanted to be in, but
right.
it's great to be there to hear what's going on, and it's a collective. It's not, and I think you said it before. This is one of those things where this isn't affecting individual; it is affecting everybody.
Right.
And we've really kind of looked at decisions, going, how do we move forward with it? So they've done a great job. The students complain, which college isn't the same college that you and I went to
right.
and experienced, and we're sensitive to that. We understand that, and we're hopefully going to get back to that. But they've been able to do it, and I try to tell as many students as possible. I have two daughters in college. One of them was able to go back to school and dealt with it. Had a good semester and dealt with it on campus. And the other one's campus was shut down, and she did it online.
Yeah.
And the difference in experience is night and day, and
yeah.
very stark. And that's one of the reasons it gets me out of bed every morning, gets me going. Is I want to do everything we can to give these kids this as much of an opportunity to be successful as we possibly can.
And that's the thing, if you think about this too, it's like my own daughter had her senior year of college wiped out basically by COVID, and her role in the sports program at Baylor was she was getting ready to we were looking forward to baseball season, and that got wiped out as well. But as you pointed out though, and I had lunch with Dr. McCormick a couple months ago, or a month actually around Thanksgiving, and he made the point too that it's forced the university to do some things differently, and you talked about that a little bit as well. So I mean, there's gonna be no fans at these games, basically.
Getting started.
Yeah, getting started eventually. Hopefully, we get this vaccine through, and we have some fans in this thing. But I mean, you're looking at live streaming. You're looking at different things. Tell me a little bit about what you're working at there.
Yeah, collectively as a conference, all the schools have all the games will be live streamed. As many games as we possibly can be free of charge. So you can find it through ShrinerMountaineers.com and be able to follow the teams all over the place. We've been able to upgrade, the positive things. We've been able to upgrade our cameras in our event center. So basketball, I'm excited about how that's going to look. We're working on our outdoor sports, and there's opportunities.
Yeah.
And it's, different doesn't mean bad. It means it's different. And we've been able to really get a chance to kind of take a step back and say, okay, what can we do better? What areas I've been able to get an SID, which is something that sports information director, which is someone that we've needed, and he's gonna grow in that position. It's gonna help us, and it's gonna help our web presence and help make it easier for people to follow us and get there. And then the fan thing is, I'm disappointed for the parents in particular, because this is their last chance to watch their kids play, especially the senior parents, and anybody who watched the NBA championships this summer. It was great basketball, but
It was weird.
Yeah, there's something missing.
Yeah,
and that's
it's been weird because like I was watching a game. I was watching Oklahoma, which after every first down they play Boomer Sooner, and that was all missing.
Yep.
The bands were gone. It was playing against empty stadiums. The NFL is still pretty much in that position.
Right.
But the scary thing about this is that they have not been able. The NBA now is wrestling with this now. They have not been able to keep COVID out of their ranks. The situation in Florida, University of Florida, where they had a player who had COVID who collapsed on the court because of the myocarditis situation that was there. I mean, there's still some unknowns about this. Does it give you any sort of trepidation going into this that you might have an issue or worries about outbreaks?
Yeah, as a former basketball coach,
Mm-hmm.
that
The contact in basketball is it's been hard.
The University of Florida situation was a nightmare that you just and again no one knows whether that it was pre-existing, whether it was from COVID, but that situation is the nightmare situation.
Yeah.
But fortunately, the 18 to 22-year-olds are, and especially ones with no conditions that are unknown.
They're okay with it. They survive it.
Yeah, they're able to handle it pretty well, and we've been very lucky. We've had the cases we've had mild or no symptoms at all, which are positives. But to me, it's always been very easy to get to know in this situation. It's very easy for us to go, okay, we can't do it.
Yeah,
it's very difficult to get to yes, and we've been trying to. Again, because as I look at it, these kids have a limited window.
Right.
Your college career is going to last 4 years,
yep.
and you only have so many games. A basketball player has guaranteed 100 games. Well, the minute you start taking those games away, you'll never get them back. And we want to make sure, if we have to cancel games, we're going to cancel games, and we'll be ready to deal with what we deal with. But the other side of the coin is we want to make sure if we can play, we're going to play. And, everybody in our conference is on that with the idea. I mean, we're going to be wearing masks on the sidelines. I've become the mask police in a lot of ways on campus and in gyms, and in our teams on the benches will be in masks. You see the social distancing and all those things that are coming in. It's the new normal of it, but the kids want to keep playing, and we want to try to do everything we can to make sure they're able to do that, and then eventually hopefully with the vaccination, as things go, we're going to be able to get people to be able to watch, and
right.
Especially the outdoor sports are a little bit different. Indoor sports are so different just because of the air being trapped, and that we know. My biggest fear as an athletic director, I'm going to put these teams on the road in buses and vans, and that's
close
probably
contact, right?
Yeah, that's where you're. If a spread's going to happen on a team, it's going to happen there.
Yeah. So the process here for basketball is that both the men and the women, they play at Southwestern, which is up in Georgetown on Friday and Saturday. They go up on Friday morning, and they're going to spend the night there on Saturday, and then come back, and then Friday night, and then come back, and a doubleheader. There's a 12-game sort of regular season. Did some schools opt out this year of the playing?
No. We had Johnson and Wales in Colorado. They early on in the pandemic, They're a unique institution. They had 4 campuses, and they consolidated down to 2 campuses. So they dropped. Everybody else is on board. Even Colorado College out in Colorado is going to play.
Yeah.
So at this point, so we're excited about it. We've gone to because of testing and because of just trying to be as safe as we can. We've tried to put them in bubbles as much as possible. So we tested this morning. All our teams, assuming we get a positive, get clean tests, they'll be able to go. Southwestern's doing the same thing, so we'll know that from Wednesday on, those, we've had clean tests. Those kids will all be together. They'll be able to play 2 games. And the problem is if we played like a normal schedule where you play somebody Friday and somebody different Saturday, you'd have to test in between because you have a whole nother group coming in.
Right.
So in all our sports, we've kind of done that. Soccer's going to be that. Volleyball's going to be like that.
Yeah.
And it's just the way you have to do things differently.
Basketball starts Friday night at Southwestern. Then they come home the next week against Centenary, which was the men's conference champions and Schreiner last year. It's gonna be the men seems to be very interesting to watch, and of course the women return a ton, led by Sydney Williams and Zara Cross, and we have a whole story on that as well. The biggest question, I guess. So and then soccer and volleyball start in February. But baseball would be getting started now, normally at this point now too, right?
And everything, January 25th,
right?
when school gets started, we will be going gangbusters. Pretty much everybody, tennis, golf. We've got wrestling. Our wrestling programs are going. Actually, we got a wrestling team going on the road this weekend,
right?
For their first match. We'll have all our sports. Everything is going to go starting really February 1.
And the challenge is that the NCAA is not going to have a Division III championship this year, so it's going to be just kind of in the conference, right?
Well, yeah, we're focusing on conference. The NCAA has not canceled it yet.
Okay.
They canceled the fall sports. They've not canceled the winter ones yet.
Right.
I fully anticipate they're just not going to be able to do it.
Right.
So we're focusing on a conference championship, and hopefully at the end of this, end of February, we'll be able to do some form of conference championship for the teams. And that's something we've been trying to focus on, is saying that they playing regular season, playing as much as we can is great. But, having that kind of that championship experience at the end is that's a memory. I was very fortunate to win a state championship in high school, and it's something that a lot of years later, I still remember cutting down the net and still remember what that feeling was, and that's one of the things that's fueled me, is I want the kids to have that opportunity.
Well, this is going to be a fun basketball team this year, in the men's side and the women's side as well. If you haven't had a chance, Alex De Hoyos, who is the guard, he'll be a junior this year, is one of the craftiest little guards I've seen in a long time. And it's the thing about Division III, right? You're like, oh, it's Division III, but there's still some fun athletes to see. There's a big difference, between what you see from high school to Division III. And then Zara Cross was dynamic last year. Was the newcomer of the year in the Southern Conference, Southern Collegiate Athletic Conference, and she's a 5'4" guard is she out of Austin or Houston? Where is she from exactly?
I believe I put me on a spot there. I think it's the Austin area.
Yeah, Austin area. And she is just fun to watch. And then Sydney Williams, who is a senior this year, kind of the team captain, and just kind of gets in and gets workmanlike performance as well. You have a new soccer coach this year, is that right?
Yep, new women's soccer coach.
Women's soccer coach. What's her background? What's her story? What's going on?
She's was at, again, I'm getting old. I'm trying to forget.
It's okay.
Things going on.
That's why you hired an SID, right?
She was at a Susquehanna University. She'd been in several different places.
Yeah.
Good background. Was a player and really just a great young woman.
Yeah.
And, we're excited about it. She's done a great job melding with the team. So we have a really young staff, which is fantastic in a situation like this. I was laughing before. I've been doing this 30 years. Every day it's I'm trying to figure out what we're next. We're the young coaches. This is the new normal.
Right.
They get up and just keep going, and which is exciting. So we're excited about what she's going to do. We've got our men's soccer program is just been getting better each year.
Right.
Baseball, like I said, was they were on the verge of really making a big.
They were gonna have a breakout season. They were hitting like 400. I mean, they were scoring like 20 runs a game. It was crazy.
We have a new softball coach who was her first year last year, got cut short. Alexis Lynn, so she's raring to go and done a great job. So I mean, we have a wonderful staff. A golf program I think is getting ready to be pretty darn good.
And then of course and then the wrestling program, which is
the rest of it, new animal. Something I learned every day. There are a lot of things. I learned about equestrian. Never knew.
Yeah,
I've been on about 3 horses in my life, and now I do that. I mean, wrestling.
Right.
I think as a 7-year-old in Michigan, I wrestled for one couple weeks, and that was about it. And so we're learning about that, and it's been exciting. And again, we're very fortunate. We have great student athletes. What was amazed me coming out of the pandemic was how well our kids did academically in a very tough situation, and a situation where they're not. When you coach for a long time, practices are they're fun.
Yeah.
But when you have to do that and there's no games at the end of the week or no games in sight, it gets old.
It gets old, right?
And the kids did a great job and stayed with it, and I'm interested to see how much improvement was made, because
I'm curious too, because like I said, I was teasing Marlon. I said last year, if you watch Schreiner basketball, like they lost, I think it was 13 games by 10 points or less. I don't remember how many games they lost by 3 points or less. Like, but it was probably half of those. It was probably 7 or 8 games they lost by. I'm like, you were the master of losing the close ones there, Marwan. And he was like, don't remind me. So I mean, it was like they were 14 and 16, but the women's team finished 4th in the conference with 10 and 8, and it's gonna be interesting to see how that shapes up. I think the other part of this too is that you were also kind of before the pandemic. There was kind of like this excitement about what was going on at Schreiner that you're obviously a part of, and you have strong support from President McCormick, because one of your biggest fans is President McCormick's wife, who goes to every single game. The wrestling program, where are you at with that transition possibly to the the full varsity or full NCAA program? Is that what you're looking at some point here?
Yeah, we're eventually going to get there. It's just a matter of we're kind of on an island right now. There's not a lot of wrestling programs in the state of Texas. I think there's 2 others. Both of them are NAIA. So
I can't understand that either about wrestling in Texas. Like what is that not a thing? I mean, it's like it's a thing in like every Midwestern state. You go to the Central Valley of California, which is like basically Oklahoma and Texas, light, and wrestling's everywhere, and it's really big in communities like the Hispanic communities as well. I mean, that's where especially in the girls' side, it's incredible. It's
interesting because Texas is the unique part of Texas is the athletic period model that they use, which is great for coaching, great for the athletes in the state, but what it does is it puts some restrictions on the ability to be different things. I think one of the hallmarks where I grew up in the East, it wasn't uncommon to have kids playing 2, 3, 4 sports.
Right.
Here it's you may have some track and football kids, but there isn't that crossover like it really should be in a lot of ways, and so it's going to be a challenge. It's something that we're looking at. Hopefully this summer we'll be making the move to moving them in that direction to get them to be full NCAA, and I think it will help the programs. It'll help our menu of sports in a lot of ways, and we've done put some good infrastructure together for them. So it's exciting.
I'm excited about that too. And then there was some which I find hard to believe. There was some hubbub about I can't believe I said hubbub, but there was some discussion about possibly adding football down the road. But that seems like a long shot at best because of the expense of it. But was there still that kind of conversation? Do you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's been put on hold with everything going on, but it is, it's something that I think is always a possibility in Texas and is always on the table. It's just a really expensive startup.
Yeah.
And that's,
What do you think it costs? What do you think? I mean, all the equipment alone. I mean,
I went through it at another institution, and at that point, that was probably 10 years ago. It was about $10 million.
Wow.
And that's just getting infrastructure and everything going.
That's amazing. Hey, we're gonna have to do a little commercial here. So if you're just joining us, we're talking to Bill Raleigh, the athletic director over at Schreiner University, and you're watching the Kerr County Lead. And I want to just make a pitch to you folks if you're interested in this. This is where you have to do we have to pay the bills here. If you'd like to become a member of the Kerr County Lead, we have 3 plans for you. $8 a month gets you access to the e-edition that you've been seeing. Exclusive content also if you go to this website, which is patreon.com/Kerr County Lead. And then for $100 a month, this is a bargain, folks. You can get, and we're going to probably limit these memberships, actually, not the $8 1 month, but the $100 a month and the $250 a month plan. We're going to limit those to a certain number of folks because we don't want to have full of advertising, but we do give you 4 half-page ads in the Lead for $100 a month. And then for $250 a month, you get sponsorship in this show, and you also get an opportunity to advertise in the e-edition as well. That's the full-page ad. In there, so it's a great deal, and we're going to limit that. We're also kind of put some restrictions on the kind of content that we want in the. Well, we're going to encourage people to say, think about original content when you talk about your messaging, and that's what we did in this last one too. So, if you're just going to do branding, that's up to you, but we really encourage you to do something that's unique and interesting and tells a story about what your business is all about. So, something to consider, and hopefully you guys can join and become a fan or a patron of the Lead. So. As we continue our conversation with Bill Raleigh. Bill, tell me a little bit about, your background in coaching. How did you get to Schreiner?
I started as a basketball coach. Got my first head coaching job in 1995 or 96 at the University of Dallas up in Texas. So very interesting. I've been at 3 schools. This is my 3rd school in the Southern Collegiate Athletic Conference that I've worked at. So I was at University of Dallas for 3 years as a head coach, and then moved to Southwestern as a head coach. In 2014, I decided to get full-time in administration. It was something I knew was coming down the road.
Right.
And when I got into full-time administration, I did that for a couple of years there and got the opportunity at Schreiner. And had known the school, had been here coaching against Schreiner, had known one of the basketball coaches here, had kind of followed it. And when I had the opportunity, met with Dr. McCormick and the staff here, and it was really, for me, it was exciting because they were, I think they're perked for going someplace exciting. Yeah. And it, to me, there's a growth opportunity. And as a new AD running my own shop, so to speak, it was great to come in on the ground floor and be able to build something.
And the nice thing about that too is that you come into a facility, it's interesting. Like D3 universities, even D2 to that matter, they have a mix of facilities. Some gigantic, others not so much. And you're kind of in the mix there. You have the great event center. You have terrific, baseball, softball, soccer, and, obviously tennis as well. But what do you still need to do? What still needs to happen?
Well, the biggest thing right now is we need to get lights for soccer and baseball.
Yeah.
That's the only hole.
Yeah, let me tell you, covering soccer in the afternoon in August is just not it's near a near death experience, quite frankly.
Baseball it's long days. Mm-hmm. As I called a kid at our baseball coach for a long time, it's nice not having lights because there's an end point.
Right.
We had a 21 inning first game of a doubleheader a couple of years back that was basically 3 games in one.
Yeah.
And we ended up having to do the doubleheader so we did that.
And then do another game.
And then do a doubleheader the next day.
Right.
because of the light. But more so the lights come into for just, it's great for games. We can survive that. It's the practices. And these people don't remember, people need to remember these are students first. And,
right.
And they're in class. And when daylight savings times hits, all that stuff, it gets dark early. And that makes it difficult to be able to get out of class and practice and do all those things where if you have lights, the event center is great. They can practice at 7, 8 o'clock at night, and there's no conflict with classes.
Right.
When you don't have lights, you've got to do it. And baseball is constantly running kids in and out. My first year at Schreiner, we did not have our infield together during the week.
Oh, wow.
I mean, they never could practice together because of academic schedules.
Right,
and,
right.
That's a little, it doesn't seem like much, but when your shortstop and second baseman can't turn the double play and aren't familiar, they need to be as close as, best friends because they need to know what's going on.
Right.
They just couldn't do it. So those things are the disadvantage. But, again, with the facilities we have on campus, they're fantastic. Our golf program with the golf courses in this, around with Comanche Trace and Scott Schreiner and River Hill Country Club. I mean, we're so blessed
right.
with and how great they are to work with us. Our tennis facility and also having the HEB tennis center in town that we've been able to really work a partnership with them to be able to maneuver things when we host a conference.
Yeah, because you could easily host obviously a conference championship there or a tournament there because that facility is just fantastic.
Yep.
And and honestly, like we were talking about that before, the HEB tennis center is that it is so nice, and then the weather for tennis here is perfect a lot of times. You don't have the high humidity necessarily that you're going to have in San Antonio or other places. When you look at like what, and I haven't been on the road, but I know like Mary Hardin Baylor, they're Division III, right? Yep. But they have like a major stadium, they have major facilities. Is that where the model looks like, or is it still going to be small? Do you think? I mean,
Mary Hardin Baylor is a different animal with what they did for football and
right.
how they did it. But we are. Trinity is in our conference, and they're one that we have to kind of work against. Southwestern's in our conference, so we're in the middle of the pack. There's things we can do better, but there are also things that I'll put our event center for basketball up against anybody in the conference. I think it's a great facility. In this business, no one's ever completely happy about anything.
Right.
But like I said, I think we have a good footprint and good base to grow from, and like I said, the biggest one is just we've got to find a way to get lights for the outdoor sports. If we can do that, that really helps us. Our shotgun team has done amazing things. We're very fortunate to have that facility in town. We've got a rifle program that we've been able to.
And you can argue you've got world-class talent coming through that program now. The number of people that are coming through that, it's impressive.
Yeah, so.
Tell me a little bit, one of the things that I'm sure you probably follow this closely. And I've had this thought too. It's like if you look what happened during the pandemic with football at the Division I level. Now the NCAA doesn't really, sort of regulates football, but there's been a lot of talk here that the Power 5 conferences are basically going to run the show now. And do you see that happening? Do you see the NCAA changing? Should it change? Should it have like a relegation type thing where you might be really good in one sport? You might go to Division II, or there might be multiple divisions. How do you see the future of the NCAA?
It's going to be interesting. It's going to be challenging because it's the money. People don't realize
right.
The NCAA basketball tournament. Basically funds 80% of the NCAA.
Yeah.
And we lost that championship this past year, so that's put everything in. It's a money issue. It doesn't affect Division III much.
Yeah.
Because of one, we don't get the millions of dollars
right.
that teams do for getting the NCAA tournament. It's and we're tuition revenue.
Right.
where we make our money for the university is on the number of kids we have in our program.
Yeah.
So that's why we have a baseball team of 70. We have 36 basketball players between JV and varsity.
Right.
40 soccer players, things like that, and it's the opportunity to continue playing. So, the big picture of the NCAA is when money, like anything, money corrupts and money gets people, and the ridiculous amount of money that goes into it at the Division I level and the big time level.
Right.
It's going to create some problems. And the NCAA's, the amateur model, there's a lot of positives to it. And as an educator and as somebody who loves sports, I always get frustrated. I'm paying for 2 kids to go to college.
Yeah.
And when I hear people say, a free scholarship, free tuition is not, it's not worth anything. I'm like, no,
it is worth something. Yeah.
You're
right.
getting paid a lot of money.
Right.
And so we've got to kind of come back to the balance of it. But the other side of the coin is, when you see what these in the Division I athlete goes through, they're not students.
No.
The amount of time they're in school all year round.
Right.
So there's a lot of, I love when people say to me, I want my kid to get a scholarship, and I'm like, be careful what you wish.
Yeah,
for.
be careful. Be careful because it's I've known several Division I. I've covered many Division I athletes. I've had good friends who've had Division I athletes, children, and I remember doing a story years ago on a dad who had a daughter played major college volleyball, played for University of Washington, and he remember saying, he said, I think she saved me about $180,000, but I couldn't even calculate the amount of money that went into all of her things that she went into. The tuition alone was this, but the healthcare, the travel, the experiences, the connections she made. So it's interesting to think about this as well. But to me, the thing that stood out, this year was that you had the SEC, which is say we're going to play no matter what, which was, you could argue, was good or bad. It was kind of a mess. The Big 12 came in and played. Baylor could play games because they had so many COVID problems with teams they were playing. And then you had, the Pac-12 came in late. The Big 10 came in late. So you had 12-0, Alabama thrashing 7-0, Ohio State. Maybe you put 5 more games on Ohio State. It might be a different game. I don't think so because Alabama's stupid. But, I think that the real question is that there is really, if the NCAA basketball tournament doesn't exist, you're right. Half those programs are in trouble.
Yeah.
So
and it really trickles down. That'll change the NCAA tremendously. But again, I'm a big fan of college athletics.
Yeah.
I love the fact that the ACC and the SEC tried to do it, and would the misnomer in this whole thing, or misrepresentation of the whole thing is people don't care. People do care.
Yeah.
And we're trying to do it, but we're also like I said before, it's easy to get to no. It's hard to get to yes.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to make the hard road to see if we can get the yes, because at the end of the day, even for the Division I athletes, that there's such a small, short window that they can do this, that you can't replicate it. And,
right.
The ones who are going to play in the pros, that's why you saw the number of people who didn't opted out of bowl games and things like that. If someone asked me a long time ago if I had a son who was going to be a number 1 draft pick, would he go to college? And I'm like, well, if my kid was a high school kid who was going to be the number 1 draft pick in the NBA, was going to get guaranteed, $20 million.
Right.
He can go to college at some point in his life.
Yeah.
And I'm an educator. I believe, in education, but isn't that what we're trying to prepare them to be successful?
Right. I mean, you got guys like, Shaq, who's gone back and gotten a master's degree, I mean, there is the opportunity, to do that. But you're right. Like the money is so profoundly in the NBA is so profound. You're like, you got to do it at that point.
And the problem is the number. There's so few. When you look at the statistics of the number of high school kids who actually make money as a pro athlete, it's 1/10 of 1% of, and that's the problem. It's all those kids who think they're going to be pros, who don't take care of the education process and end up playing 4 years and don't have a degree.
Right.
That's the issue that we need to solve.
Let me tell you, folks. I've been around some major. I was around an Olympic champion, and world record holder when I ran track. And our track program, I ran track at Riverside City College in Riverside, California, and we had Noordine Morsali, who was the 1996 Olympic gold medalist and world record holder in the mile, and he was a freak.
Yep.
I mean, the guy was unbelievable, and I realized at that point I could never manage pain as well as that guy could manage. I think the interesting thing, though, too, that we're talking about with the future of sports is, I look at the Division I level sometimes, too, and I think to myself, what in the heck are some of these conferences doing? I covered Cal State Bakersfield for a number of years, and they would go to Chicago to sweep, Chicago State, in 3 games in volleyball. I was like, how does the state legislature actually allow that to happen? I mean, the travel on that's crazy. There's no one in the stands. There's no revenue from that. And ultimately, does that really matter? I don't know the answer to that question, but it's going to be interesting to see. And then you had also these movements, which I think is terrible, like Stanford, cut sports, cut some of their programs out. And I just hate to see that. I hate to see those opportunities out there because I love college sports too. I mean, you put on a college, any college sport out there, I'll probably watch it for a few minutes. Field hockey, that's kind of interesting. Lacrosse, I'll probably watch it for a few minutes. I love college track and field, obviously. What a world we live in these days.
Well, and there's such a difference. The Stanford model, they had 43, 44 different programs, which is unheard of at that level.
Right.
But it's not unheard of at, Amherst or Williams or some of the best academic schools in the country with Division III. So the Division III model makes a lot of sense because it's the opportunity to continue playing.
Yeah.
Revenue is where the problem is. And people see, there's so few football programs, athletic programs, that are making money.
Yeah.
And they even some of the big, you'd be surprised when you look at the numbers. Some of the biggest ones that you think are rolling in dough, athletic departments are not, barely breaking even or losing money.
Yeah.
And that's, but the Division III model is what I think we're, the one thing I love is I think we're doing it right. We're doing it with student athletes. We're doing it with, as I tell our students, you're choosing to play. You're choosing that you want to continue to. If you don't want to do it, it doesn't affect your financial aid. It doesn't affect anything. It just affects what you do with your day.
There were several games last year when I would go to the basketball games last year, and I thought to myself, man, people are missing out.
Yep.
And that was the thing. Like that was gonna be it's still my goal. Is like you get fans in there. There should be, watching De Hoyos, basically, if you guys missed this, he took an inbound pass, bounced off either the guy's back or head, took it in, and then hit a jump, a layup, and then got fouled. So it was like a brilliant play, and I hadn't seen that in a long time. from someone as crafty as he is, or you see like a guy like Rendall, Matthew Rendall, who, is 6'6". A good guy, a good student athlete, who just gets stuff done, and is well liked, and he's going to be the leader of this basketball team. I mean, that's the kind of kids you have, right?
Yeah, we're so fortunate, and again, being a former coach and corners coach in this league, I'm so glad to represent the SCAC because it's fun to watch. And I use Matt Rendell as a great example. A couple times last year I'm watching him, and he's in conversation with the kid next to him, and they're competing and striving to win, but they're doing it the right way.
Yeah.
And I watched. I'm sure most people watched the game last Monday night with the NCAA championship or whatever, the college football championship. And really what impressed me was especially after watching the NFL, where every time they do something in the NFL, they run to the corner and they pose for that screen.
Right.
It was kind of fun to watch Alabama. The Heisman Trophy winner scores 3 touchdowns and hands the ball to the official and, goes back to his teammates and acts like they've done it before.
Yeah.
And to me, that's what we get. Our kids compete. They want to win. They work hard. They do everything. But they're doing it for the right reasons. And their life, it's not life or death. It's athletics. It's you want to win and you want to play hard. And, you win the game. Your life doesn't change that much the next day. You go to class and you do the things you need to do. You lose the game. You figure out how to get better and you keep moving on. So
that's what I loved about watching that game. I didn't really have a horse in the race there, but or a dog in the fight or whatever you want to say. But and I don't really care for Alabama. Saban to me is I don't know what. But anyway, but Devontae Smith was just ridiculous. The Heisman Trophy winner. You're like. And it's exciting. Like I remember when Vince Young, led Texas to the Rose Bowl win over USC for the national championship. It was like there's certain times where athletes just do things. You're like, wow, how is he? How do they stop him? Yep. And every time Devontae Smith touched the ball on Monday night, it was like, what's he gonna do? He's gonna break that.
Well, I was sitting there watching the game with my wife, and she's like, why can't they stop him? I'm like. He's just better.
Better.
They put him in good spot. The one play where he was in motion and peeled back and they threw it. It was just a race to the corner.
Yeah.
And you could see the Ohio State kid was giving everything he got.
Right. I mean,
he wasn't going to get there.
Smith's got the next level speed, and that's the thing that Saban loves. And what a performance, though. And so now that they're losing Sarkisian to Texas, so. Not that I think Sarkisian's that great of a coach, but we'll see what happens with that. So it's interesting. The biggest takeaway, though, for you, what gives you? I mean, I guess some people said, well, everybody's going at once, but if you really think about it, though, I mean, you kind of have to manage basketball and volleyball time. So is that going to be a headache, or are you going to be able to manage that?
It's a logistical nightmare, but it's a nightmare I'm willing to do to give these kids the opportunity.
You have a second gym, though, right? You have another
we
facility?
kind of use that with wrestling and our shot. Okay. We were able to do some things where we were able to do what they call dry fire, so a rifle and shotgun are able to so those kids can practice on campus.
Okay.
People don't realize when you don't have facilities on campus, athletics is tough enough when you just have to go to practice every day.
Right.
When you have to travel 10 miles, 20 miles, whatever it is to a facility, it just adds exponentially to the time. So we've been able to, for our shotgun and rifle kids and our wrestling kids, give them, so the back gym, the old gym is being used for that mostly. And it just makes it, you can work it out. It's, like I said, I've been at places where you had one gym for 4 teams and
right.
My wife laughs when we were first married at the University of Dallas. I'm practicing at 10 o'clock at night. And she's like, why? I said, it's the only time I can get the kids out of class and I can get in the gym. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be fun, but we'll get it done for them. And really for these kids have lost so much. And Lewis, what fuels me is watching what they did this fall. Mm-hmm. I mean, these kids worked hard, practiced. We practice a ton. We're probably practiced as much as anybody in the country,
right? Because
we were able to have good protocols, and the kids took care of it. And we never had to shut down one program,
right?
Because of COVID positives, and that's not because we did anything special. It's I give it to the students. They were smart and made good decisions.
Well, if you think about this, from the start of school in August, four people have had COVID at Schreiner. And that's I mean more altogether, but only 4 during that period, and that's really due to the fact that the university was adamant. They had some principles there, so it's
and the students took it seriously.
Yeah.
People don't. Like I said, there's. And I use that. It's so easy to get to know. It's so easy to hunker down and not do anything and never leave your house and never do it. This summer, my mother's 84 years old, and she lives in Florida with my 3 siblings live around her, and my youngest sibling has a young children. Mm-hmm. And my mom finally said, something, we're going to be smart and we're going to wear our masks and we're going to keep our distance, but we're not going to miss out on going to watch them play baseball or be at a birthday party and stuff like that. And, I respect that they made the choice, and people are going to have to make the choices you're going to make. And that's the opportunity. And we've given our students, hey, this is what we're going to do, and it's there. You want to play, you're going to agree to follow these rules. We're going to do the best we can to keep you safe. And the nice thing is with the contact tracing, all that stuff is. My job is to put the product together the best we can. There's someone else at the university, our healthcare professional, is making the decisions on contact tracing and all that stuff, and it works out. We all respect each other, and I think we're doing the same thing.
The one thing I was kind of stewing on last night was I follow a lot of these coaches in California, high school coaches, when they've delayed. The fall season completely been delayed. Now they're going to rush in the spring. Football's going to start here in a couple weeks. Looks like, for California, but it's like. You're also wrestling with the fact, this is an interesting thing that we're dealing with now, where COVID is so bad in some counties, like in Los Angeles County, where they don't even have room in the emergency room for people. So how do you responsibly play a sport, like a contact sport like football? Any sport really can have a serious injury, when you have that sort of impact on the, on the healthcare system as well, which I think a lot of people are failing to think about too. It's like, man, these hospitals right now are you go in the hospital right now, you're probably going to be okay for not having COVID, but you're going to take away, the staffs are just impacted like crazy. So,
yeah, I mean, like I said, you can come up with every reason not to do something, and I think if you do it responsibly, if you do it, we're not going to push the envelope. We're not going to push kids into playing. We're not going to do things that we don't think are that we can do safely. And,
right.
And we there's been so much research on. My biggest fear is the travel.
Yeah.
That playing is not the issue.
It's the travel.
It's putting these kids in a van or a bus. So our kids are going to travel wearing masks, and when we stay at a hotel, we're going to pick up food and bring it to them, and just limit as much as we can. And,
right.
At some point, we're going to be dictated to by what's happening in society, and if one of the best things I heard from Dr. McCormick is he believes we're going to do this, and the way we don't do it is if society, if the hospitals are, the healthcare system can't handle it. And but I always look back, Lewis, when we shut down, when you look back at the reality of it, we took these kids who were probably the best able to equipped to handle it,
right?
But probably one of the biggest carriers of it,
yeah.
And we just dispersed them back home.
Right.
And in Texas with multi-generational families, all that stuff. I look back and go, boy, we're lucky it wasn't worse, in a lot of ways. And this way now we've got them here. We can manage them. And my experience with them, the ones that have gotten it, it's been very mild, very short symptoms.
Yeah.
And then we haven't had, and I'll knock on wood, because we're going through all, right now, we just haven't had that exponential spread.
Yeah, if you look at the actual data, in the state of Texas, well, even locally, Tybee High School is the one of the number one spreaders of the virus here, because there's been so many kids who've had it, So it definitely, in those older teens and then, the 20 to 30, that's a lot of them, there's the number of deaths is really, really small, but it's the challenge, the threat of spreading it to somebody who's a little bit older. Well, we're talking to Bill Raleigh. We're out of time here. I want to do one quick thing, though, real quick. Plug them tonight. So go on to SchreinerMountaineers.com. And on Friday night, they will be playing the doubleheader. The women playing first, I think it is.
Yes, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
They're playing against Southwestern up in Georgetown, and then the men will follow that night. And I'm kind of excited about how your program will turn out. And then they'll be home next week. You won't be able to go to the game, but you can watch the game on the live stream as well. But we'll have coverage of that as well in the lead and online. So as that. And speaking of that, just one more little quick pitch. If you like to become a member, they start as low as $8 so per month, and we're. Look, I'm just going to tell you right now. I'm going to use a terrible Star Wars reference. And the movie Rogue One, they were like, okay, we're gonna go here. We just don't know what we're going to do, but we're going to figure it out. And that's what we're doing. That's the business plan right now. We don't know what we're doing, but we're going to figure it out. So here is one way to help us continue our work here. And, Bill, thanks so much for being here.
That's great. Thank you for all the support.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, all right, tomorrow, I don't know who's going to come on tomorrow. Friday, we're going to be over at down the street of Kerrville, Pets Alive, talking about animal adoptions. I'm going to go wrestle Daryl Beecham over at the Museum of Western Art, because next Tuesday, he doesn't know this yet, but next Tuesday I'm going to make him do a live show from his facility. He doesn't know this, but I'm pretty certain I can get him to do it. So tomorrow we'll have a guest. Maybe we'll have Ashley Phillips storming here angrily or somebody like that, and we'll come in tomorrow. We'll figure it out. But in the meantime, thank you guys for joining us again. We will see you guys again tomorrow, and here back at 9 o'clock. Like I said, we'll have a surprise guest. Maybe we'll have somebody come on who will just thrill us to death. We don't know, but we'll update it as we go along. So thanks a lot for everybody. We'll see you guys again tomorrow.
All broken promises, no busy tones. Just what it takes, just make believe. No one belongs to anyone.